The biggest mistake in ranking a 30-30 lever action is assuming the newest rifle, smoothest action, or highest price automatically makes it the greatest. That shortcut ignores more than a century of deer camps, mechanical innovation, and designs that changed what American hunters expected from a woods rifle. For this list, greatness means more than accuracy from a bench. We're weighing historical importance, cultural impact, mechanical influence, long-term durability, field handling, and whether each rifle still deserves respect after its own era has passed. We treat distinct production eras as separate rifles when their features and ownership experience changed substantially. Some entries shaped the entire category. Others revived an old design with better materials and tighter manufacturing. That creates the central argument. Can modern precision outrank a rifle that helped define American deer hunting? Or does legacy still carry more weight? We'll begin at number 7, with a modern American rifle that finally answered one of Henry's most persistent criticisms, the Henry H9 Classic. Number 7 is the Henry H9 Classic, officially listed as Model H009G. This is the newest classic on our list, a modern American-made 30-30, built for the hunter who wants traditional walnut and blued steel without inheriting the uncertainties of an old rifle. Its weakness is not poor construction or an outdated layout. It ranks here because a rifle introduced by a modern company has not yet accumulated the century of influence carried by the names above it. The Henry name instantly suggests the 1860s, but Henry Repeating Arms is a modern company rather than a continuous descendant of the original New Haven manufacturer. That distinction matters in an all-time ranking. The H9 can honor the lever gun tradition, yet it cannot claim that every decade of history attached to the Henry name belongs to this exact rifle. What it can claim is a thoughtful response to what present-day hunters asked for. Earlier centerfire Henry rifles were often criticized for relying on a removable magazine tube at the front. The current H9 Classic adds a side-loading gate while retaining that removable tube. In practical terms, the gate makes it easy to top off the magazine without changing the rifle's traditional handling, while the removable tube gives the owner another convenient way to empty it after a hunt. That dual system is not just decoration. It corrects the feature that kept many traditional lever gun buyers from taking Henry seriously. The rest of this configuration is deliberately straightforward. A 20-inch round barrel keeps the rifle compact enough for timber and whitetail terrain. The steel receiver is drilled and tapped for an optic, and side ejection keeps the top of the action clear. Henry lists a 6-round capacity, a 7-pound weight, a transfer bar safety, a checkered straight grip American walnut stock, sling swivel studs, and a rubber recoil pad. Those details make it easier to set up as a working deer rifle rather than preserve it as a display piece. Henry currently lists the H9 Classic at $1,135. That is premium money for a rifle whose greatest advantage is practical familiarity, and the 7-pound weight means it does not reproduce the slim feel of the lightest classic carbines. There is also no long historical record proving that this specific configuration will influence the category for generations. Buyers are paying for new manufacture, factory support, and classic appearance, not proven collector status. For a hunter who wants a new, scope-ready 30 with 2 magazine access options and no need to search the used market, the Henry makes a strong case. But this list asks a harsher question than whether a rifle works well today. It asks whether that rifle changed the story of the American lever action. At number 7, the H9 Classic joins the story without yet owning a major chapter. From here, the ranking turns to a rifle with deeper historical roots, rebuilt with modern precision outside the country that made it famous. Number 6 is the modern Winchester Model 94 short rifle. It serves hunters who want the handling of America's famous deer rifle with new manufacture, current support, and modern optics. Its rank comes from a tension no machine can remove. This rifle inherits one of hunting's greatest names, but it did not create that name. When the New Haven factory closed in 2006, domestic Model 94 production ended. The rifle later returned as a Japanese-made Winchester, preserving John Browning's basic lever action with later platform updates. That origin does not make it an imitation. It is a licensed Winchester, built to current specifications. But in an all-time ranking, manufacturing quality and historical authorship are different achievements. The exact short rifle here uses a 20-inch round barrel, a straight grip walnut stock, and a full-length tubular magazine holding 7 rounds. At 6 pounds 12 ounces, it retains the quick shoulder movement and easy carry that made the carbine format valuable in thick timber. Winchester says the button-rifled barrel is triple-checked for precision. That is a factory description rather than an independent accuracy guarantee. That distinction protects the comparison. The real advantage is not a promised group size. It is receiving a new barrel and current tolerances in a design whose originals have endured decades of wear. The most practical change is how the current action handles spent cases. Original Model 94s ejected upward, complicating a conventional scope over the receiver. The modern angle eject action sends cases upward and to the right, clearing space for conventional glass. The receiver also comes drilled and tapped. Winchester also uses a top tang safety, a rebounding hammer, round locking bolt trunnions, radius lever edges, and an articulated cartridge stop. Together, those parts are intended to improve safety, lever feel, and feeding without changing the rifle's recognizable shape. Those additions are also where traditionalists may hesitate. The original Model 94 earned its reputation through mechanical economy, an exposed hammer, and a manual of arms generations learned without a separate tang safety. A modern owner may appreciate the extra safeguards. A collector chasing the purest Browning experience may see them as layers between the shooter and the original design. Neither reaction is automatically correct, but it explains why this rifle cannot simply replace the older 94 in history. Winchester currently lists the 30-30 short rifle at about $1,450. That is expensive for a design, once celebrated as an accessible working rifle. The buyer is paying for new condition, attractive walnut, careful modern manufacture, and compatibility with a conventional scope, not for a bargain. For a hunter who wants a light, new production Model 94, and prefers an optic over strict historical authenticity, this is the sensible Winchester. It is more practical than the original in several modern roles, yet greatness across all time demands more than refinement. Number 6 proves that a classic can return with better accommodations and still live under the shadow of its own past. Next, we leave the revived icon behind and meet one of the original rifles that directly challenged it. Number 5 is the Marlin Model 1893, later renamed the Model 93. This is not the easiest rifle to buy or return to hunting service. It earns its position because it established the mechanical family that would eventually produce Marlin's most important 30-30. Where the modern Henry joined an existing tradition and the Japanese Winchester refined one, this Marlin helped create a competing branch of the lever-action story. The design grew from L.L. Hepburn's work on the earlier Marlin Model 1889. Anticipating the move towards smokeless powder, Hepburn lengthened and strengthened the action and added a 2-piece firing pin safety. Marlin introduced the Model 1893 with a solid top receiver and side ejection. Those choices protected the action and sent cases away from the sightline. More importantly, they formed the architectural pattern Marlin would continue developing for decades. The earliest Model 1893s appeared in older black powder chamberings. In 1895, Marlin began offering the rifle for smokeless cartridges, including .30 Winchester. That placed it at the transition, transforming the American deer rifle. Winchester's Model 94 became the larger cultural icon, but Marlin already had a technically distinct answer: a closed receiver top, side ejection, and a design that did not depend on cases traveling straight upward. In 1905, Marlin shortened the model name to Model 93, and barrels from that era may carry the words "Special Smokeless Steel." That marking is historically useful, but it is not a modern safety inspection. Serial records are incomplete, parts may have been replaced, and more than a century of wear can change headspace, bore condition, and lockup. No antique Marlin should be treated as ready for current ammunition based only on its name, chamber stamp, or exterior appearance. Its exact condition belongs in the hands of a qualified professional. That uncertainty explains why the Model 1893 does not climb higher. More than 1 million examples across Model 1893 and Model 93 production created real market impact, yet surviving rifles vary dramatically. Barrel length, magazine length, stock style, sights, finish, and prior repairs can all differ. A collector may find an important, mechanically sound rifle. A hunter looking for predictable factory support may find a restoration project with scarce parts and no simple baseline for value. Still, its influence is difficult to overstate. The Model 93 led to the Model 36, and that line ultimately became the Model 336. The later rifle replaced the older flat-sided bolt with a stronger rounded design and updated the internal springs, but it kept the core Marlin identity: a solid receiver top, side ejection, and accessible maintenance. In other words, the Model 1893 matters less as an isolated collectible than as the beginning of a design language that survived changes in factories, owners, and manufacturing methods. For the collector who values engineering ancestry, this is one of the most meaningful 3030s ever made. For the hunter who simply wants a dependable rifle for next season, its age and configuration uncertainty are serious disadvantages. Number 5 belongs to the Marlin Model 1893 because it gave the category a genuinely alternative path, not because every surviving example should return to the field. Next, that family tree reaches modern production, where old architecture meets Ruger's manufacturing system. Number 4 is the Ruger-made Marlin Model 336 Classic. If this ranking asked only which traditional 3030 a hunter should buy new today, this rifle could challenge for the top. It combines the familiar Marlin layout with current machinery, factory support, and a configuration designed for deerwoods rather than nostalgia. But greatest of all time requires proven influence across generations, and this version is still writing its first chapter. In 2020, Ruger acquired the Marlin firearm assets after Remington's bankruptcy. Production restarted under Ruger, and the Model 336 Classic returned in 2023. The rifle here is the blued alloy steel Classic, chambered in 3030 Winchester, and manufactured in North Carolina. Ruger-made Marlins carry an RM serial prefix and a North Carolina barrel marking. Those details matter, because a Marlin name alone does not identify its factory, generation, or quality history. At its core, the rifle preserves what made the 336 useful. The receiver has a solid top and ejects to the side, so a conventional optic can sit over the action. The design also allows bore cleaning from the chamber end after the bolt is removed. A loading gate feeds a 6-round tubular magazine, while the exposed hammer, half-cock position, and cross-bolt safety retain the familiar Marlin control arrangement. These are not decorative callbacks. They connect weather protection, optic placement, maintenance access, and field handling in one coherent system. Ruger changed how that system is manufactured. The receiver, lever, and trigger guard plate are machined from alloy steel forgings. The 20.25-inch barrel is cold hammer forged, with 6 grooves and an 11-inch right-hand twist. Marlin describes that process as producing precise rifling and long barrel life. That remains a manufacturer claim, not a sub-MOA guarantee. What can be stated directly is that the current design uses a new barrel, current tooling, and a polished bolt rather than depending on worn legacy parts. With its American black walnut stock, 20-inch class barrel, and traditional sights, the Classic looks close to a North Haven hunting rifle. It weighs 7.5 pounds, which gives it more steadiness and recoil-absorbing mass than a very light carbine, but also makes it less lively in one hand. The receiver is drilled and tapped, and Marlin includes sling studs plus an offset hammer spur, so a hunter can build a practical scoped package without improvising around the action. Marlin currently lists it at about $1,360. That price buys new manufacture and current service, but it also pushes a rifle descended from a working-class deer gun into premium territory. More important for this ranking, a product reintroduced in 2023 cannot yet prove the 50-year durability, cultural reach, or market influence of the rifles ahead of it. Manufacturing promise is not the same as historical evidence. The Ruger-made 336 Classic is best for the hunter who wants the old Marlin advantages without searching for a clean used example or navigating disputed production years. It takes number 4 because it may be the strongest current interpretation of the classic 3030 Marlin, but it has not existed long enough to outrank the designs that established the category. If you have carried both a Ruger-made 336 and a North Haven JM rifle, which one earned more of your trust in the field? The top 3 now moves beyond careful modernization to rifles that changed what hunters believed a lever action could do. Number 3 is the Savage Model 99 in its classic rotary-magazine configuration, chambered in 3030 Winchester. This is the engineer's lever action, a hammerless rifle built around a magazine system that escaped one of the defining limits of Winchester and Marlin tube-fed designs. It ranks above the modern rifles because its ideas influenced hunters for nearly a century. It stops short of the top 2 because 3030 was only one chapter of the Model 99 story, not the chambering that defined its full reputation. Arthur Savage's earlier Model 1895 introduced the core concept, and improvements soon produced the Model 1899, later shortened to Model 99. Production continued in many forms until 1997. Across that long run, stocks, barrels, safety locations, sights, and magazine systems changed. For this ranking, the identity lock is narrow. We are discussing the hammerless 3030 versions with the original rotary magazine, not later rifles using a detachable box. The magazine is the reason this rifle belongs in the top 3. Instead of stacking cartridges nose to primer in a tube under the barrel, Savage used a machined rotary spool inside the receiver. Each cartridge occupied its own position, allowing the action to accommodate pointed bullets without one bullet tip resting against the primer ahead of it. A small window displayed a brass counter showing how many cartridges remained. 5 cartridges fit the spool, while a cocking indicator displayed the mechanism's status at a glance. That combined ammunition separation, balance near the receiver, and a visible capacity indicator in a package designed before the 20th century had fully begun. The lever operates a downward tilting breech block inside a smooth receiver with no exposed hammer. That hammerless profile reduces projections that can catch on brush or clothing, while the enclosed action gives the rifle a distinctly different feel from a conventional Model 94. Savage later chambered the design for cartridges that demanded more from the action than 3030. That broader capability is evidence of the platform's strength, but it should not be used to exaggerate what one 3030 load can do. A clever rifle cannot rewrite the pressure, bullet, or trajectory limits of its cartridge. In the field, the rotary magazine also concentrates much of the ammunition weight near the center of the rifle instead of spreading it along a full-length tube. That can support a balanced carry and consistent handling as rounds are fired. The lack of an external hammer changes the manual feel, and the brass counter provides information without opening the action. None of those features guarantees accuracy or reliability in every surviving example. They explain why the Model 99 feels like a separate engineering philosophy rather than another copy of the dominant lever gun. Its complexity became its limitation. The rotary spool, counter, internal timing, and numerous production variations are more demanding to identify and service than a simpler tube magazine rifle. Production ended decades ago, factory support is limited, and condition now matters more than catalog reputation. Some surviving rifles were altered, rebarreled, refinished, or fitted with non-original parts. Exact value depends on the variant and condition, so a broad auction price cannot honestly represent the entire 3030 family. The Model 99 best suits a collector or hunter who values mechanical originality and is willing to evaluate an individual rifle rather than buy a generic model name. It earns number 3 because it proved a lever action could be hammerless, centrally balanced, and compatible with a rotary magazine while remaining a serious hunting rifle. But the 3030 market ultimately belonged to 2 simpler rivals whose names became almost inseparable from the cartridge itself. The Savage is the great alternative, the rifle that showed another future was possible. The top 2 are the rifles that defined the future most hunters actually chose. Number 2 is the North Haven Marlin Model 336. The era collectors often recognize by the small JM proof mark on the barrel. This is the working hunter's great 3030. Strong enough for decades of use, simple enough to maintain, and shaped around the rise of the hunting scope. It ranks above the more mechanically exotic Savage because the 336 was not merely an interesting alternative. It became one of the two dominant ways Americans understood a lever-action deer rifle. Marlin introduced the Model 336 in 1948 as the replacement for the Model 36. The new rifle kept the solid top receiver and side ejection of its ancestors, but changed the action in important ways. A round profile bolt replaced the older flat-sided form. Coil-type mainsprings and trigger springs replaced flat springs, while the carrier and extractor were redesigned. Each change addressed strength, consistency, or service life rather than visual fashion. The result was a rifle that retained Marlin's identity while becoming easier to manufacture across a long production run. The solid receiver top created its clearest field advantage. Empty cases left through the side, leaving the top available for an optic instead of sending brass into the space a conventional scope would occupy. Not every early 336 left North Haven in the same configuration, but factory-drilled and tapped receivers became part of the line in the 1950s. As scopes moved from specialty equipment to ordinary deer camp tools, Marlin's architecture required fewer compromises than the original top-eject Winchester. Maintenance reinforced that practicality. The action allows the bolt to be removed so the bore can be cleaned from the chamber end, reducing the need to work from the muzzle. The pistol grip stock and comparatively substantial receiver give many 336 configurations a steadier, fuller feel than the lightest Model 94 carbines. That extra mass can calm movement and moderate felt recoil, but it also costs some of the Winchester's fast, narrow handling. This was never a free advantage. It was a choice between portability and a more scope-friendly, serviceable platform. North Haven production also passed through several technical eras. Micro-groove rifling entered the centerfire line during the 1950s. Marlin promoted its many shallow grooves as a way to produce uniform bores, reduce fouling, and support accuracy. That is a manufacturer claim, not proof that every micro-groove rifle shoots better than a Ballard rifled barrel. Without comparable testing across ammunition, bore condition, and individual rifles, the rifling should neither earn an automatic accuracy advantage nor be treated as a universal weakness. Here, it is a production feature that helps identify an era for collectors, not a verdict by itself. Other changes matter to buyers as well. A crossbolt safety joined the line in 1984, which some hunters welcome and some traditionalists dislike. The JM mark is useful evidence that a barrel came from the North Haven manufacturing era, but it does not guarantee untouched parts, perfect assembly, or excellent condition. Barrels can be replaced, rifles can be modified, and examples from the same year can age differently. Marlin also spread the action through Glenfield and retailer-branded rifles with lower-cost stocks and finishes. Those guns expanded its reach, but their specifications and value should not be assigned automatically to a JM-marked Marlin rifle. Ruger now states that it lacks the parts and equipment to service pre-Ruger Marlins, so the condition of the individual rifle and access to a competent gunsmith affect real ownership cost. The wider Model 336 family eventually passed 6 million rifles, reflecting a reach few sporting arms ever achieve. The North Haven 3030 deserves number 2, because it combined a durable action, conventional scope placement, practical maintenance, and decades of deer hunting credibility, without becoming mechanically complicated. It best fits the hunter or collector who wants a classic Marlin and is prepared to judge the actual rifle rather than purchase a proof mark. Yet one rival still stands above it. The Marlin may be the more convenient optical platform, but the final winner carried less weight, reached more hunters, and became the rifle most closely tied to the 3030 name. Number 1 is the Winchester Model 94, built before 1964, and chambered in 3030 Winchester. Its winning criterion is historical and cultural impact. No other rifle on this list did more to turn the 3030 lever action into the standard image of an American deer rifle. The Marlin 336 may be easier to scope, and the Savage 99 may be more mechanically adventurous, but the pre-64 Winchester set the reference point both of them had to answer. John Browning designed the Model 1894 for a compact action capable of handling longer rifle cartridges. Winchester introduced the rifle in 1894, then paired it with the new smokeless 30-30 cartridge in 1895. Winchester describes it as the company's first rifle designed for smokeless powder. That pairing arrived when hunters were moving beyond black powder performance, yet it remained light, narrow, and fast enough for woods carry. The cartridge and rifle did not merely coexist. Each helped define the other. The original action uses a rear locking system and ejects cases upward. Lowering the lever opens space within the compact receiver for the longer cartridge to feed, allowing rifle-class ammunition in a package close to the handy Model 92. In the common 20-inch carbine form, the Model 94 carried close to the body, came to the shoulder quickly, and balanced with less forward mass than many heavier rivals. Those qualities mattered on steep ground and in thick timber, where a rifle might be carried far longer than it was aimed. The 20-inch carbine was only one configuration. Winchester also sold rifles, trappers, takedown models, different barrel lengths, and finishes, so this ranking uses common era traits rather than pretending every pre-64 gun shared identical specifications. Top ejection is also the design's clearest limitation. A conventional low-mounted scope occupies the same space needed by an empty case, so owners historically relied on iron sights, receiver sights, or offset mounting solutions. The Marlin 336 solved that problem more cleanly, with side ejection and a solid receiver top. The Savage 99 solved the tubular magazine problem with its rotary spool. Winchester did neither. Its achievement was different. It delivered enough strength, repeat shots, low carrying weight, and mechanical simplicity in a form ordinary hunters kept choosing. The pre-64 boundary matters because Winchester redesigned the rifle to reduce production costs in 1964. Forged components gave way in several places to sintered or stamped parts, and the receiver finish became more difficult to execute attractively. That does not mean every later rifle was unreliable, and it does not justify calling the entire post-64 era worthless. It means the earlier rifle represents the original manufacturing character collector's value. Machine steel parts, traditional finish, and the configuration that built the reputation before cost reduction changed the product. The wider Model 94 family eventually exceeded 7 million rifles and became the best-selling centerfire rifle in American history. Not every one was a pre-64 30-30, but the early era established the name, the handling pattern, and the deer camp credibility that later versions inherited. That legacy does not guarantee the condition of any rifle offered today. Barrel wear, headspace, altered sights, refinished metal, replacement wood, and serial number accuracy all matter. A buyer should treat pre-64 as an era to verify, not a magic phrase that replaces inspection. The strongest argument against this winner is practical and honest. A hunter who wants a low-mounted scope, straightforward cleaning from the chamber end, and easier support may be better served by the North Haven Marlin 336. Someone who values pointed bullet flexibility and mechanical originality may prefer the Savage 99. A hunter who wants a warranty instead of a collectible should choose a current production rifle. The Winchester wins only for the audience we defined, hunters and collectors asking which 30-30 lever action achieved the greatest total legacy. Even when legacy carries less weight and modern practicality carries more, the Winchester still holds the lead under this all-time standard. Only when conventional scope compatibility becomes the dominant criterion does the Marlin move to number one. The Winchester's lead is not based on one feature. It combines design influence, unmatched market reach, light field handling, durability across generations, and a direct identity with the cartridge. Under the all-time standard, the pre-64 Winchester Model 94 remains the rifle every other 30 lever action must be measured against. Greatness in a 30-30 lever action is not determined by age, price, or mechanical complexity alone. It comes from field handling, design influence, market reach, and a legacy that survives generations. By that standard, the pre-64 Winchester Model 94 takes number 1. The Marlin 336 remains clearly the stronger optical platform, while the Savage 99 represents the much bolder mechanical experiment. Which would you carry through one deer season? A pre-64 Winchester, a JM Marlin, or a new Ruger-made 336? Subscribe for the next Scoper 360 ranking. Until next time, hunt safely and know your rifle.